Minute Math. When you need help, you use Minute Math.
I'm Sean Gannon, and this is Minute Math, and today we're learning about one-step equations with fractions. We're going to solve each equation. If I was given this equation, 5 1/2 plus p equals 6. To get p by itself, what we want to do is subtract a 5 1/2 to both sides. So we subtract 5 1/2 to both sides, and this leaves us p by itself on the left, because this 5 1/2 cancels out there. On the right, 6 minus 5 1/2 is just, 1/2. And so our final answer here is just p equals 1/2. m minus 1 1/2 equals a negative 5 over 4. I want to get m by itself. So to do that, I want to bring the 1 1/2 over to the right. Now we're subtracting 1 1/2 right there. So opposite of subtraction is addition. So I'm going to add a 1 1/2 to both sides. This eliminates that 1 1/2 on the left, giving me m by itself. And negative 5/4 plus 1 1/2 is a positive 1/4. And so our final answer is just m equals 1/4. Negative 3/4 times b equals 2. Well, I want to get b by itself. Negative 3/4 is being multiplied right up front. To eliminate that negative 3/4, I want to multiply that by the reciprocal, both sides, right? The reciprocal is a negative 4/3. This eliminates the 3's cancel, the 4's and the minus sign cancels, giving me b by itself on the left. Now 2 times a negative 4/3, when we simplify that, we get a negative 2 2/3, and there is our final answer. X minus 3 equals a negative 5 1/2. Well, I want to get x by itself. We're subtracting 3 from it. Opposite of subtraction is addition. So if I add a 3 to both sides, we're left with x by herself on the left. The 3's cancel. On the right, negative 5 1/2 plus 3 is negative 2 1/2. And so our final answer here is just x equals negative 2 1/2. X minus 1/2 is equal to 1 1/4. Well, x minus 1/2 is on the left there. There's subtraction. Opposite of subtraction is addition. So if I add a 1/2 to both sides, this will eliminate the 1/2 on the left, giving me x by itself is what I want. And then 1 1/4 plus 1/2 is 1 3/4. So our final answer here is just x equals 1 3/4. X minus 1 1/4 equal to negative 6. I want to get x by itself. We're subtracting 1 1/4 from it. Opposite of subtraction is addition. So if I add 1 1/4 to both sides, we will eliminate the 1 1/4 on the left, giving me x by itself. And negative 6 plus 1 1/4 is negative 4 3/4. And so there is our final answer. 2 1/10 n equals 1 1/6. All right. Well, first thing I want to do, I'm going to convert this to an improper fraction. 2 times 10 is 20 plus 1 is 21. So we have 21 over 10. N equals 6 times 1 is 6 plus 1 is 7. 7 over 6. We then want to multiply both sides by the reciprocal, 10 over 21. This leaves us n by itself, okay? Then on the right-hand side, we can simplify some of this stuff as much as we can. 21 and 7, simplify, right? There's a 1 and this is a 3, and then 6 and the 10, both divisible by 2, so we have 3 and a 5. And so we're left with, well, 1 times 5 is 5, and 3 times 3 is 9, so n equals 5/9, and that's it, our final answer, n equals 5/9. 9 1/3 equals 5/3 n. Well, to get n by itself, I'm going to have to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 5/3, which is 3/5, okay? Now, to make it easier, I'm going to convert 9 1/3 to an improper fraction. 3 times 9 is 27, plus 1 is 28. So we have 28/3 here, equals 5/3 n. Now, I'm going to multiply both sides by 3/5, okay? We're left with, well, the 5/3, right? 3/5, they purposely cancel each other out. We have n by itself on the right. 3's can cancel each other out here, and so we're left with 28 over 5 on the left, which converts to a proper fraction to be 5 and 3/5 equals n, or rewrite it, n come first, 5 and 3/5. And there we have our final answer. 5 and 2 over 7 plus k equals 2 and 27 over 70. Well, one of the first things I like to do when I solve this, right, I know I'm going to have to subtract 5 and 2/7 of both sides. Well, to have the same denominator, 5 and 2/7, right, we both want to have $1.70, so I can multiply this fraction by 10. So that's 5 and 20 over 70, same thing. This makes it a little easier to see. Now I'm going to subtract a 5 and 20 over 70 to both sides. And in doing so, I'm eliminating the 5 and 20 over 70 on the left, giving me k by itself, and oh, that's a 5. Excuse me. Oh, no wonder it looked a little weird. Forgot that this is a 5 right there. Subtract 5 and 20 over 70 to both sides, all right? When we subtract that and simplify, we end up with the final answer of just negative 2 and 9 over 10. So we just simplify that, and there we go. 2 and 5 over 12 equals negative 3 and 1/4 plus k. So one thing I want to do here is that to get k by itself, I know we're adding a negative 3 and 1/4. To eliminate that, we have to add a positive 3 and 1/4 to both sides. This gives me k by itself on the right, and on the left, 2 and 5/12 plus 3 and 1/4 does come out to be 5 and 2/3. Now we can rearrange this to have k come first, so k equals 5 and 2/3, and there we have our final answer. m minus 4 over 9 equals negative 2 and 67 over 90. All right, I want to get m by itself. So to do that, I have to add a 4 9ths to both sides. All right, simple enough. The 4 9ths cancel, gives us m by itself. Now, if you want to see, all right, we have to add same terms, but fractions at the same denominator, right? To add them. So if we do a little note here on the side, we see negative 2 and 67 over 90. We can add, well, multiply both of these by 10, 40 over 90. Same thing as 4 9ths. That's going to help us with our simplification here, and subtraction, etc., and what we need to do. When we do that and then simplify, we got our final answer of just negative 2 and 3/10, because that fraction will simplify. So our final answer is negative 2 and 3/10. 11 over 6 equals 1/3 plus p. Well, what I want to do here is I want to get p by itself. So we're adding 1/3 to it, opposite of addition, subtraction. So we subtract a 1/3 to both sides. P now is by itself on the right, and on the left we have 11/6 minus 1/3 comes out to be 1 and 1/2. We can flip this to have p come first, so p equals 1 and 1/2 is our final answer. 1 and 13 over 64 is equal to 11 over 8 times v. I want to get v by itself, and I know I have to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 11 over 8, which is 8 over 11. But to do that, one tip I like to help, or this can help you, is to write this proper fraction as an improper fraction. 64 times 1 is 64, plus 13 is 77. So this can be rewritten as 77 over 64. And this is just going to help us when we multiply now both sides by 8 over 11. That cancels the 8 over 11 or 11 over 8 on the right-hand side, give me v by itself there, which is what I wanted to be. And then we multiply this out and simplify. This does simplify to be 7/8 when we multiply it out. Now I can rewrite it, have v come first, so v equals 7/8, and there we have our final answer. 39 over 5 equals 2 times n, or 2m, right? Well, we know that's multiplication going on there. Opposite of multiplication is division, right? And or we can see it like this, multiply by the reciprocal, 1/2 to both sides. And I find it's easier with fractions. This eliminates a 2, right? The 1/2 times 2 is just 1, so we have m by itself on the right. And now we have 39 over 5 times 1/2. Well, that becomes 39 over 10, which then simplifies, and we can rewrite it, have m come first. M equals 3 9/10 as our final answer. N minus 3/4 equals a negative 2 3/4. Well, to do this, what I want to do is I want to get n by itself. Well, n minus 3/4 there, opposite of subtraction is addition. So if I add a 3/4 to both sides, I will eliminate the 3/4, right, on the left, giving me n by itself. Now, negative 2 3/4, excuse me, minus or plus 3/4 is just a negative 2. And so our final answer here is just n equals a negative 2. 9 over 10 n equals a negative 1 1/10. Well, I know we have 9 over 10 here, and to get rid of that and have n by itself, I'm going to multiply that by the reciprocal to both sides. But before I do that, I'm going to convert the right-hand side as an improper fraction. I find that easier. So 9 over 10 n equals, we can write this as an improper fraction. 10 times 1 is 10, plus 1 is 11. So we have a negative 11 over 10 here. Now, I can multiply both sides by 10 over 9. And this gives me n by itself on the left, right? This all cancels out. That's the whole point of multiplying both sides by the reciprocal. Simplify this, right? The 10s can cancel. Well, it's 1, 1. And then we write this as a proper fraction and simplify. It ends up just being a negative 1 2 over 9. All right? Negative 1 1/2 plus v equals negative 3 3/10. All right. I want to get v by itself. We're adding a negative number to it. So if I add both sides by 1 1/2, that's a plus sign. Got ahead of myself there. Whoopsie. Moving everything around. Plus 1 1/2. Okay. I'm left with v by itself on the left. On the right, negative 3 3/10 plus 1 1/2 comes out to be a negative 1 4/5. And so that is our final answer. N minus 4 over 7 equals 3. Well, I just have n minus 4/7. We're subtracting 4/7. Opposite of that is addition. So if I add a 4/7 to both sides, the 4/7 eliminate on the left, giving me n by itself. Now 3 plus 4/7 is pretty easy to add. That's 3 4/7. And there we have our 9k over 65 equals 1 3/16 over 845. All right. Well, two things I'm going to do at once in the beginning here, right? 9k over 65 is the same thing as 9 over 65 times k. It's good to see that separated there. Now, the right-hand side, I'm going to write that as a improper fraction, excuse me, okay? 845 times 1 is 845. We add a 3/16 to that, well, 845 plus 3/16, add that, 5 plus 6 is 11, carry the 1, 4 plus 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6, and 8 plus 3 is, oh my goodness, brain fart, here is 11. There we go. And so, this fraction here is really 1,161 over 845. All right, now to get k by itself, same process as before, we multiply both sides by the reciprocal, 65 over 9. That eliminates this on the left, giving me k by itself, and 1,161 times over 845 times 65 over 9 simplified just comes out to be 9 and 12 over 13. And there is our final answer. Negative 9 over 19 equals n minus 11. All right. To get n by itself, I want to add an 11 to both sides. So that's the opposite of subtraction, right? Addition. So if I add 11 to both sides, I'm left with n by itself on the right. 11's cancel, right? On the left, negative 9 over 19 plus 11 is 10, and 10 over 19. We can rewrite this, have n come first, so n equals 10 and 10 over 19, and there is our final answer. 1/3 equals n plus 4/3. All right. Well, I want to get n by itself. So to do that, I want to subtract a 4/3 of both sides. Now, we have plus 4/3, opposite of addition, subtraction, so that's why we subtract a 4/3 of both sides. We minus a 4/3 here, okay? N is by itself on the right because the 4/3 will cancel. Now, 1/3 minus 4/3 is just a negative 1. We can rewrite this as n come first, so n equals a negative 1 is our final answer. Negative 26 over 33 is equal to 13 over 11 times x. All right? Well, to get x by itself, I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 13 over 11, which is 11 over 13. All right? Now I got to do that to both sides, 11 over 13, and this eliminates here, the 13s and 11s cancel, eliminates the coefficient on the right, giving me x by itself. Now, 11 over 13 times negative 26 over 33, that ends up simplifying. It's pretty easy to see. Let's just go through it. Both of these are divisible by 11. This is a 3 and this is a 1. 13 goes into 26 2 times, right? So 1 and then 2 up here. And so our final answer is pretty easy, is a negative 2/3. So we can rewrite that to have x come first as x equals a negative 2/3.
Minute Math. When you need help, you use Minute Math. Minute Math. When you need help, you use Minute Math. MinuteMathTutor.com.